Welcome back to Rockstar 101. His name is Brandon. He is the DJ.
His name is Shim. He is the Rockstar. Class is in session. We're still in 1989, although I do have to make a side note here. I've started to build a 1990 playlist on Spotify.
Excellent.
Oh, 1990 is going to be a lot of fun to talk about.
Yeah.
We got a lot of really cool albums that came out in 1990. We're starting to get like the full grunge movement in there. Did you ever, Mother Love Bone, did that ever make it down there?
Yeah, it made it down here. I know the band name, I don't remember a song.
So Mother Love Bone
Did that influence Soundgarden, that band?
Mother Love Bone actually had a couple of members of Pearl Jam in it. And they were going to kind of be the big thing, but the lead singer passed away like a few months before their debut album release. So Mother Love Bone was kind of that grunge band that never was. You had Stone Gossard and Jeff Ament from Pearl Jam. They were both in Mother Love Bone. So, but that's coming up. That's 1990. So that's going to be in the next episode. Here for 1989, we are focusing on Dr. Feelgood. That's kind of the big rock album of 1989. And at the end of this episode, we're going to talk about one of the most controversial events, or we're going to get into it a little bit, because the event actually happened in 1990, but it has its origins in 1989. It doesn't involve Motley Crue actually at all, but we'll get to that here at the end of the episode. Before we get into it, remember you can follow Shim over on Twitch. It's twitch.tv/Hollywood Rebellion. You can follow me on Twitch. It's twitch.tv/The Real Brandalorian. At The Real Brandalorian is where you can find me on Instagram or on Reddit. And then of course, Shim, you can find him on Twitter or on Facebook. Just look up his name.
That's
Shim
it.
Moore. It's that simple. All right, so Dr. Feelgood, how much do you know about Dr. Feelgood?
Very little.
Is that an album you listen to at all?
No. I know the singles because they dominate the radio, but for the most part, it was before I got into music. And the truth be told, I never really got into Motley Crue. I never got into the hair metal scene. I loved, in terms of guilty pleasure listenings, the Def Leppard, Poison, Motley Crue singles and the Aerosmith stuff, but they were all... For me, and I might get a lot of, if you hate on this, then put it in the comments section on YouTube. But as far as I was concerned when I was a kid, they were all the same band because they all sounded the same and the songs were all about the same content. And so it was really kind of a wash, which I'm sure a lot of people viewed grunge as when they heard Soundgarden, Stone Temple Pilots, Kurt and fucking Eddie Vedder. It all would have been a wash to them. I'm sure that it isn't to us. But to me at the time, that's what it sounded like. So, but with Def Leppard, I'm not Def Leppard. See, this is what I'm talking about. With Dr. Feelgood.
You get them all mixed up.
Dr.
See, that's the
Feelgood.
thing is, when I was a kid, I mean, I was an 80s kid. I was born in 1980. So I remember this stuff on MTV. Not really sure if I should have been watching a lot of it, but that's kind of what was on, I guess. And I used to love it. I mean, when I was a kid, the big bands that I would listen to was, Queen, Twisted Sister. I remember I would sit and wait for the "We're Not Gonna Take It" video to come on, which was weird because it terrified me. Right. When they kick the old dude out of the window of the house, like it terrified me. But for some strange reason, I always thought it was super cool. Yeah. Also, the makeup reminded me of the Ultimate Warrior, which I thought was always pretty awesome.
Their makeup went over the line as far as I could
it wasn't
tell.
just, it was like clown makeup. It wasn't just makeup, it was clown makeup.
Yeah, it was. I never liked that one, and I always, "We're Not Gonna Take It." I never think of Twisted Sister when I think of that song. I actually think of and this is where I was in the time frame because music just all blended together. For me, "We're Not Gonna Take It," I used to think was Alice Cooper because of "School's Out for Summer." I used to put those two messages together. I used to put those two messages together.
Yeah, well, we're not going to take it because school's out.
What the hell? Yeah, talk for me again. My sound just went bonky.
Oh, no!
Oh,
Can you hear me?
It just went...
Did we lose it?
No, we didn't lose it, but we're going to have to edit. All right, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to shut this down and call you back.
We can just leave this in. You're going to call back?
I'm going to have to call you back because it's going to stay like this the whole time.
Okay.
All right, so I got to call you back.
Send me a new link.
You sound like a robot. All right, let's see if I can do... Hold on one second. Let's see if I can do this properly. I'm going to keep recording and jiving and talking, and then I'm going to close Zoom and start it up again. This is going to be so much fun. The link will be the same. And I'm going to talk to my audience. Okay, so now that Brandon's gone, I never listened to that record. Okay, I just want to point out, I never listened to Dr. Feelgood. I'm lying through my teeth. I barely know the singles. I don't know how Dr. Feelgood actually goes. I don't think that I know what the other singles are. I'm thinking while I'm talking to you guys, and I don't know. I'm trying to think. I want it, and now I've got We're Not Gonna Take It in my head. We're not gonna take it. Dr. Feelgood. Something about women. What's the other one? And now I'm thinking about Dude Looks Like a Lady. This is all wrong. But don't tell him in the comments, okay? We're about to come back on. Don't tell him in the comment section. And then let's see and watch how this rolls out, okay? Come back now. All right. And talk to me, brother.
Hey, can you hear me? How am I sounding?
Yeah, man. So, yeah, Dr. Feelgood.
Oh, yes. So Dr. Feelgood, that's an album that came out in 1989. Where do you want to start with this thing? Because I got a bunch of interesting facts, and I even found a really weird little factoid. You know what? I'll bring that up later, but let's focus on Dr. Feelgood for right now.
I think you should take it off. Yeah, go for it.
So some of the interesting things here about Dr. Feelgood. So this was their first album that they ever recorded sober. Because this was, and you know, we if you want, you can go back and we have a whole episode that we did with the rest of Shim's band. Actually, remember we talked about The Dirt.
I don't remember that.
Shim doesn't remember it because he was
blind.
But we did do a whole episode about The Dirt. So they do cover the crash, Vince Neil's car crash, where the dude died in it. So Dr. Feelgood came after that. Nikki Sixx. Remember the whole inspiration for Kickstart My Heart was it when he technically died.
I remember that. Yeah, that was the one I was thinking of. Oh, Kickstart My Heart. Yeah, I remember that one.
So, you know, this was the first album that they had actually recorded sober. And did you know Dr. Feelgood was an actual guy?
I heard about this, but I read about it in the book. It didn't make it into the film, did it?
I don't believe so.
So I read the book The Dirt, which is as far as that's what gives me any more understanding of Motley Crue, is that I did read The Dirt, but I read The Dirt before I knew most of their music or anything about the band. I read it because it was next in line of the rock biographies that I wanted to read. I read the one on Aerosmith, I read the one on Queen, and then this one years and years and years ago. And then I read part of the Heroin Diaries, which we'll get to probably the year after next when we've gotten back up to speed on the years that we're going through, reminiscing about music. But yeah, Dr. Feelgood was their drug dealer, right?
Well, he was a drug dealer of the stars. Dr. Feelgood, he was originally, it was a guy by the name of Dr. Max Jacobson. And the nickname came from the Secret Service.
Is he still practicing? Is he still running?
No. He was practicing during John F. Kennedy's presidency. So that tells you how long ago that was. That would have been the early 60s.
Right.
So Jacobson was known for administering amphetamine to prominent clients like the Kennedys, meaning, you know, John F. Kennedy and so on and so forth.
Wow.
Marilyn Monroe, Elvis Presley. Those are just to name a few. Right. He eventually did lose his license because he was drugging up all these celebrities. Man.
Yeah. Is he theoretically responsible for Marilyn Monroe?
You know what? That's a good question. That's something that we'll have to figure out. Or if somebody knows this, go ahead and put it in the comments down below.
If anyone knows
here in the YouTube channel.
If there's a link or anything that talks about that, throw it in the YouTube comments, please. And also, everyone, make sure you like and subscribe to this channel, like the video, and hit the notification bell. It helps us more than you realize with the YouTube algorithm. So if you could do that, that'd be really helpful. Thank you.
Very much so. And obviously, this album did really well on the charts when you're talking about Dr. Feelgood. It was at number 1.
Yeah.
And this will take me to this other interesting factoid that I found, because I have the list of the number 1 albums by week from 1989. The big album that year, Bobby Brown's Don't Be Cruel. That was the best performing and best selling album.
Isn't that ironic that that's what his album was titled? That's fucking ironic to me. Next.
Well, it spent 6 non-consecutive weeks at number 1. It spent 3 weeks at number 1, and then another 3 weeks at number 1. But there was an album in between, and it's really interesting as to why this album would have jumped up to number 1. It's Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction.
It jumped up to
that
number
came
1.
out in
Yeah.
the number 1 album in the country on the Billboard. I'm sorry, on the Billboard 200.
But when did it come out?
The number 1 album was Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction 2 years after it came out.
A Sweet Child of Mine?
Paradise City.
Paradise City. I could have sworn it was going to be. So wait, 1 second, sidebar. The first single was Welcome to the Jungle. Wasn't the second single? No, what was the first single?
First single was Mr. Brownstone.
What a stupid move. It should always have been. How was Welcome to the... I thought, well, all the way it's time for fucking 20 years. I thought Welcome to the Jungle was their debut. But
Mr. Brownstone's a good song. Now, don't get me wrong.
Song,
it's clearly not Welcome to the Jungle, but
yeah.
Mr. Brownstone's still a really good song.
But I thought that... Didn't Guns N' Roses break when Welcome to the Jungle finally got placed on MTV and people started freaking out about this new band?
Yeah, so here's the interesting thing. So the album... Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction was released July 21st, 1987.
Fucking nuts.
So this is 2 years prior to what we're talking about. We're talking about 1989 with Motley Crue, Dr. Feelgood, and then Bobby Brown's Don't Be Cruel album got bumped at number 1. So the first single off of Appetite for Destruction was Mr. Brownstone. That was in June. Then in September of 87, they released Welcome to the Jungle. Then... June of 88, so almost a full year after the release, they released the single for Sweet Child of Mine.
Right.
All the way to 1989. January 10th, they released Paradise City.
That's such a great run. That must have been the most amazing 3 years. That's 3 years of 3 fucking singles. Fuck the first single. Welcome to the Jungle's where it started. But basically, they dropped Welcome to the Jungle, tour for a year. Sweet Child of Mine, tour for a year. Paradise City, number 1, tour for a couple of fucking years. Fuck. Wow.
And there was even a 5th single off that album. It was Night Train. Night Train was a 5th single, which obviously, you mentioned the big 3 there.
Yeah.
But that would be so as I was looking at this, I thought it was really weird because I'm looking at this list.
Yeah.
Of the top albums of 1989, and I'm like, why would Appetite for Destruction? And then all of a sudden my brain went, they probably released a single.
Yeah.
And when you look at it, it was January 10th, 1989, and the week that Appetite for Destruction went back to number 1 was about a month later, February 11th. It was back at number 1. It was only there for 1 more week, and then Bobby Brown went and came back, and he spent 3 more weeks at the top. But some of the other albums from 1989 that were at number 1, you had a Debbie Gibson album in there. Toned Loke, dude. Tone Loke, Loked After Dark. That's with, Funky Cole Medina.
No
Wild
idea.
Thing.
No, Wild Thing? I know Wild Thing. I don't know any of the other songs you're talking about.
You don't know Funky Cole Medina?
I don't know that. I'm sorry. Dude, once again, Australia. Sorry. That's
yeah,
what we come to.
I forget you grew up on another planet.
People were listening to I Come From a Land Down Under. Fucking, we don't know that shit.
Where women grow and men blunder.
No. What else?
All right, so we're still looking at these top albums here. Batman. So in the last episode of Rockstar 101, we were talking about like the movies of 1989. That soundtrack, which was Prince's big thing, that spent as well 6 weeks at the top of the charts. Man, that was a big album.
Yeah.
And I think we talked about this after the podcast when we were done recording it. But I specifically remember as a kid, I remember Prince. He was dressed up where it was almost like they were doing an homage to Two-Face, but it was Batman on one side, and it was a full Batman, outfit. I don't think he had the full cowl, but then on the other side, it was Joker. And that's something
cool.
I vividly remember from that.
He was so cool. Like the fact that Prince, and I think that for me, Prince lost a lot of his, the quality that, like he was larger than life and godlike in the 80s and early 90s. But then once you got to 2000, there's a whole generation of people that didn't realize how fucking amazing he really was. He was like if Bowie was just draped in cool 24/7. Like Bowie.
Are you saying Bowie wasn't draped in cool 24/7?
No. I'm saying that Bowie probably took more risks in total. But you can't, here's the thing. Bowie went so far in every direction that whatever your definition of cool was, he could never have hit it every single time, because maybe you thought that, Ziggy Stardust was the coolest fucking thing ever. Well, then when he went and did his straight suit thing with his hair combed back and he was more of a business guy, sort of hyper business suit thing, they're not, you'd be like, well, which one's cooler? Are they both equally? Whereas when Prince did Prince, David Bowie reinvented himself to the point of being 100% different every time. Prince had a line where it was always still Prince. And so, but he changed so much within that realm and how the fuck did he pull it off? I was watching Purple Rain. I've never seen the whole movie for Purple Rain, but someone asked me to learn Purple Rain last week on stream. Twitch.tv/Hollywood Rebellion, Twitch.tv/Hollywood Rebellion. I was doing a cover song and they asked for, you can do a live learn if you want to request a live learn. I'll learn a song I've never learned before. I didn't realize I've never listened to Purple Rain all the way through enough times to know all the changes. I just know the Purple Rain. That's it. I remember that. And then you see the video and you're like, damn, he looked like a fucking, he looked like a caricature. But when he first did it, he wasn't a caricature. It was years after when everyone kept doing it over and over and over again and watering the shit down. But when he did it, he looked fucking cool back then for that. And then he dressed up as Batman and the Joker in Two-Face, and it was the biggest hit album of the fucking year. You can't do that shit anymore. That's untouchable. I love it. Sorry, but that's...
Have you ever heard... No. Prince is definitely worth talking about, man, because have you ever heard the Saturday Night Live 40th anniversary special Prince story?
No.
So after the big 40th anniversary special for Saturday Night Live, you need to kind of get a scope. Like, this is the who's who of Hollywood that are hanging out here because they brought everybody back. I think this is the one that they even brought back. I think they even brought back Eddie Murphy for this one. He just did an intro. He didn't actually.
Yeah, this was like last year, right? This was recent. No. This was.
No. This was a few years ago.
Yeah.
He hosted last year.
That's what it was. That's what I'm thinking.
But they brought him back, and he just introed a skit or something.
Yeah.
So listen to this. So this is a story that I've heard told from a couple of different sources at this point, and it's talking about this after party that happened after the 40th anniversary special. For Saturday Night Live, and kind of, it gives you a scope of how big Prince was.
Yeah.
It says Dan Aykroyd and Jim Belushi, who's filling in for his late brother John, started things off with some Blues Brothers tune. It's a party and they're performing. There's a stage. They were followed by Paul McCartney, who helped lead Jimmy Fallon and Taylor Swift in a rendition of I Saw Her Standing There. Then, for good measure, McCartney sang backup for Swift on Shake It Off.
Wow.
Think of the star power that's on that stage at that point. You've got Paul McCartney and Taylor Swift. Just right there. Okay. Yeah. From there, Fallon emceed a jam session that included Miley Cyrus, Ariana Grande, and Debbie Harry singing The Tide is High. Michael Bolton doing When a Man Loves a Woman, and the B-52s breaking out Love Shack. So think about how
that sounds awesome. It sounds so awesome.
Suddenly, as Jimmy Fallon tells it, Dave Chappelle goes up to him and whispers, "Dude, Prince is here." Instead of trying to play it cool, Fallon grabs the mic and announces, "Prince, if you're here, I dare you to come up on stage." So this is how Jimmy Fallon tells it. All of a sudden, the crowd parts and there's purple smoke and the dude just floating towards the stage. So Fallon continues on. He says that when Prince, this is not a quote anymore, but when Prince reached the stage and got his guitar on, he grabbed the mic and delivered a line that perfectly summed up the night. Dearly inebriated. Then he launched into Let's Go Crazy. Among his backup singers, Maya Rudolph, who has her own Prince cover band called Princess, which is brilliant, by the way, and Chris Rock.
Jesus.
And the way that I have always heard this story. Oh, and Questlove adds here, Jay-Z, Rihanna, everybody ran to the stage because in the presence of Prince, even the biggest stars in the world were reduced to lowly, grateful fans. That's how big that dude was. Because no matter whose version of this story I hear, it's a who's who of Hollywood. We're not even talking like B, C, D stars. We're talking upper
AAA.
Echelon stars here, man. And when that dude came in, that was the guy. They were all reduced to fans at that point. That's how much swag that guy had, dude. Like, that dude was a baller.
Yeah, no, I wish that I had a chance. I've been fortunate to meet some of the amazing people that I idolized, and I've spoken, and anyone else I've spoken to, people like Orianthi, for example. When I started talking to her, well, there's a fun fact about Orianthi as well. She was actually the guitar player in my. I actually forget about it. I'm not going to say that. But okay. we met when we were kids, when we were first in Australia, playing music and doing stuff. And then I reached out to her when a mutual friend was like, "Oh yeah, no, Orianthi," and she played with Michael Jackson. And that was like, wow, I'm 1 degree of separation away from Michael Jackson. That's about as close as I'm ever going to get. But I never found anyone who worked with Prince until I had a guy who I knew, who was his engineer recently, like closer to when he died. He was his engineer at his house, and he basically had a full-time job working at his studio on his compound, engineering. And he said that like when that Prince, we're going down the rabbit hole on the Prince thing for a second. We're gonna duck out of it in 1 minute, okay? But this is the only story that I know about Prince, and I can relate to it very much. Because my friend, who will remain nameless, was listening to some music. Prince walks in, and he's just doing a couple of things before he's about to start recording. And so my friend's listening to some music, and Prince goes, "What is that?" And my friend says, we'll call him John. And John says, "Yeah, it's just this new thing. What do you think?" And Prince just goes, "That ain't music." And my friend just goes, "Okay." Like, he didn't have a bad relationship with Prince at all. They had a good working relationship, but he didn't say like, "Dude, you're wrong. Wait, check this song out." He just went, "Okay, you're Prince. That ain't music."
Well, yeah, like, what do you like? Yeah. How do you retort?
So he just sort of lowered it and kept listening to it quietly while Prince was getting ready, and then there was a pause, and Prince apparently said, "You want to know what music is?" And my friend just turned the music off and turned around and said, "Yes, please tell me what music is. I can't wait to hear this." And Prince was like, Music is that I can take anyone, anywhere, any group of people, large or small, and I can make them feel whatever I want to make them feel. If I want to make them feel happy, I can make them feel happy. If I want to make them dance, then they're going to be dancing. If I want to make them cry, then they'll be crying. That's music. Anything less than that is not music. And I was like, yes, Prince is God. But I felt personally, on a personal level, when I heard the story, I remember feeling very calm and comfortable, because that's the way that I had always viewed music as well. Not always, but for as long as I've been making records, I learned it from a few people who were on the other side of the curtain once you get into real recording studios and make real music. And I learned, like, the only thing that matters is, do you make a person feel that thing? And if it doesn't, you got to keep going until you hit it. So when I heard that Prince was like, it's black and white. If they feel it, it's that. If not, it's just noise. And I'm like, yep, cool. I was right. Everything I learned was right. Cool.
Damn, dude. That's a good Prince story, though. Yeah. And so, we're still talking about 1989. Yes. And like we said, he had, that Batman soundtrack was huge. It was, I wonder if I can find out how many albums it actually sold. It was on the top of the charts of the Billboard 200, the album, for 6 weeks. It clearly didn't sell as many as Bobby Brown's album, just because, it says here that Bobby Brown's was the biggest one of that year.
But let me ask you this:
it's gone 2 times platinum. The Batman soundtrack.
What did that album mean to you personally?
The Batman soundtrack?
No, Dr. Feelgood, because we started talking about that. Like, what's the big deal about it? Why?
I think it's because it was kind of, the way that I see it is that Dr. Feelgood was the peak of hair metal, and then it was after that was when it started to come down. Because that was the big album. And I know that there was other really big hair metal albums that came out after that, and there's really good hair metal that came out after that. But I kind of see Dr. Feelgood as, through the 80s, and of course it's easier to say that since we're talking about 1989, and it's easily relatable since it's the end of the decade. But you get to this point where it's at this peak, and then, after that, as that starts to go down, because at the time this is going down, you've got grunge coming in.
Yeah.
And so, and remember, grunge was kind of the antithesis of the hair metal movement. It was just kind of like, it was a completely different vibe where the hair metal movement was about partying and chicks and dressing weird and look at me in my tights and I'm smuggling plums and all this other stuff. But then, the grunge movement, it was just more brooding topics. It was more, down tempo, and it was more, it was the word grunge was the perfect way to sum up that lifestyle, because also I don't think grunge as an actual, it's not just a music genre. It's not a specific type of music. Because if you compare,
I know that's why I loved grunge always. It was so much more artistic and wide and versatile.
And they've got documentaries out there on grunge, and some of them they're interviewing those people back then, that were in that movement in Seattle, and they're like, the thing that bothers us most is that when people talk about grunge kind of nationwide, they think it's a genre of music when it's not. Because if you compare Alice in Chains to Soundgarden to Pearl Jam to Nirvana, the styles are vastly different. There's a lot of similarities, obviously, but it's not as comparable. Where if you were to take like the hair metal bands, like like a Motley Crue and a Def Leppard, and it's like, oh, like that style is almost identical.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different there. So as we're looking here at 1989 and the top albums, as we're going to get ready to wrap up this episode here. So Dr. Feelgood, it did hit number 1. It was on 2 weeks, but it had some hefty competition in 1989 because it knocked Paula Abdul's Forever Your Girl from the number 1 on the charts. This was in October of 89. And then at the end of October, Dr. Feelgood got bumped by Janet Jackson's Rhythm Nation 1814. And I remember that album being absolutely like
everywhere.
R&B was a big year for R&B 1989 was.
Yeah.
Like that was some really good music that was coming out. Now, follow me, Shim.
Okay.
We're going to go on a journey.
Okay.
Go on this journey with me. So here's the tease that I had given before about this big event that happened in 1990, got kicked off in 1989 because there was another really big album that came out in 1989 that led to this infamous event happening in 1990. And it had to do with a couple of dudes who didn't actually sing their own song.
Oh, how did I forget? Of course. Fuck. If you don't know this story,
were they big? Was Milli Vanilli big down there?
No,
in Australia?
no,
Did they make it?
That song would have made it, but the only thing anyone remembered was the story. That's fucking. Oh God, I remember have to watch that video again.
So I remember so this is 89, 90. I'd be 9, 10 years old. I specifically remember that these albums, like that Milli Vanilli album, was huge in my school, and it was heartbreaking when we found out what, because you see that video and then of them where like the record skipping, girl you know it, girl you know it, girl you know, and like they're standing there like this shocked look on their face like, oh my God, and then they just like run off stage, or they could have been like Ashley Simpson who started dancing a jig or whatever the hell it was.
Yeah, that was the end of her career too. Like oh God, that's right, I forgot about Ashley Simpson, because when she did it, it was just straight up on tape. The whole thing was just, oh, yeah, you can't do that. You cannot do that. It's the worst. Milli Vanilli was the first, though, and it made national news, right? It was a great story.
Oh, this was a huge story because it was... I think people felt betrayed because people were told it was these two dudes, and it sold millions of copies. Yeah. But then come to find out, it's not these guys actually... singing it. And I'm trying to find the exact date of when that happened.
The one thing is it's one thing if you record your own music. Ashley Simpson was different because she actually technically sang her stuff. Then they tune it and shape it and it's on the record, and then you can't pull it off live because you didn't really sing. You're not that good a singer. The problem was that these guys, later everyone found out, not only were they singing, they were miming, but they weren't even miming to their own voices. So they were fully, they were puppets, and they were, but this shit's been happening forever. Like, it really has been happening forever. Like, there's a lot of people who, they make sound good on a record, and you go and see them live, and they go, oh, they're not as good. And then you find out that if you just put them on stage with a guitar or a piano, they're just the worst, because all the instrumentation and all the backing singers are doing most of the work, and that's just how it fucking is. The only difference was that these guys got caught, man.
Yeah, no, they did. I remember there was another big story, and if I'm remembering correctly, because we got to wrap up this episode, but I think it was the CNC Music Factory, and one of their big hits, and
everybody dance now.
Yeah, and they had this more slender female lip syncing that in the video, but that wasn't the actual voice behind it, and that started to become a thing, because it was like, well, why wouldn't you let her sing her own song? But then it's like, oh, this is Hollywood. This is, they think, I guess, she's not worthy of putting in a music video, despite the fact that she's got an amazing voice. Yeah. Like, it became the story, and that's something that happened when I was a kid, and I remember that stuff. So
yeah. No, I feel but that's part of the business, man. That's part of the business. I refused when we first started making stuff. There were some people that suggested it before we signed to a label and found the people, when we were just finding the people to work with, and I was like, man, I can't hit that note in the song if we're writing a song together. That's all right, you put it on the tracks. And I'm like, no, we're not doing that. Like, I'm not just no. So
that's because Shim Moore, former lead singer of Sick Puppies, is a real musician.
I do my best.
Anybody out there who's tuning in for the first time. So we appreciate you tuning in for the first time. Again, if you're listening to this on Spotify, Apple, or Google, and you want to check out the videos, you can always head over to Shim's YouTube channel. Just type Shim Moore into YouTube and it'll come up. And then when you get here, as I'm pointing down below, make sure you hit the thumbs up and everything else down there for us, because that definitely helps us out. And you can see our pretty faces.
But that's good. And next podcast, next week, are we getting to everyone's comments? Are we getting to everyone's comments and stuff?
Yes. So, God, I love this thing that we're doing here, because we just started doing this where we're going through year by year. It all started with a random idea that I had of, we're going to start with 1995. I'm going to make a playlist of the best rock. It's going to be up on Spotify, but by the way, if you want to find it, go to Spotify and search The Real Brandalorian, and you can find these playlists that I've created. So far, 95 and 89 are up. 1990 will be up, coming up at the beginning of April. And the thing that I love is people sharing with me the music that they think, because I'm not going to catch every song. Like, I can't. There's stuff that just slips through the cracks. So if I happen to miss something, please, by all means, comment below if there's a song from 1989 that you think should be in, or if you want to plan ahead and you're like, these songs for 1990 need to be on that playlist, by all means, put it in the comments below, because I'm already starting to build that 1990 playlist, dude, and I am flipping stoked. It is there, because let me
don't get into it here. I think what we need
no, because hold on, stop, because this is going to be a tease for the next episode.
All right, go for it.
It's called a tease.
Okay,
it's called a tease, because here's some of the albums that we had, and this is how eclectic 1990 was. You had Alice in Chains' Facelift. You had Pantera, Cowboys from Hell. Mother Love Bone, which, as we mentioned earlier in this episode, they were kind of one of the big grunge bands, but unfortunately the lead singer passed away. Now listen to this. AC/DC Razor's Edge was released in 1990 as well. So we've got a lot to talk about, and I've only scratched the surface. So if you have anything that we missed in 1989 that you think I missed that should be in there, comment below. But then also when it comes to 1990, if there's stuff that you think should be in there, let me know. And we'll definitely get to it on the next episode of Rockstar 101.
Excellent. And in the meantime, go ahead and click the like, click the subscribe, do all that stuff, notification bell, doopy-doo if you're watching on YouTube. And in the meantime, we're going to be getting into all that next week. Are we done? Is that it?
That's it.
Beautiful. All right, look at your face. All right, until next time.
Dude, you have no idea how excited I am for 1990. Like, this is going to be awesome.
Excellent. We'll do longer episodes for that to get through everything. But until then, ladies and gentlemen.
No, we got to keep it. No, look, we got it. We got like the whole point. It's like Twitter. Like, you can't go over your character.
We're already going over right now.
Tight and concise.
We're going over right now.
Shut up.
This is Rockstar 101. His name is Brandon. He's the DJ.
His name is Shim. He is the rock star. Bye.
Still going.
Dismiss.